hano maui no ka oi Kila kila o hale a kala Kua hiwi nani o maui Haaheo o Hawaii Hano hano maui no ka oi Kila kila o hale a kala Kua hiwi nani o maui Haaheo o Hawaii Hano hano maui no ka oi Kauana hoi ala maka Hololi o holo peki Hamea ole hoi ala hola Kauana la kauana hoi ala maka I ala maka Hololi o holo peki Hololi o holo Mea ole hoi ala Mea ole hoi ala hoi Kila kila o hale a kala Kua hiwi nani o maui Haaheo o Hawaii Hano hano maui no ka oi Kila kila o hale a kala Kua hiwi nani o maui Haaheo o Hawaii Hano hano maui no ka oi 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 Kila kila o hale a kala
Good morning. If you could please take our seats. We will begin soon. Aloha, I'm Major Isaiah Gomez with the J6 Directorate, U.S. Indo-Pacific Command. It is my pleasure to be your MC for our final keynote presentation here at TechNet Indo-Pacific. As a courtesy to our keynote speaker today and our fellow professionals, we ask that you please silence your communication devices. I'd now like to ask our supporting partner from SAIC, Vinny DeFranzo, Executive Vice President, Air Force and Combatant Command's Business Group, to please come up on stage for welcome remarks.
Okay, we're not rolling anything. Good. Aloha and welcome to the closing keynote for TechNet Indo-Pacific 2025. He just told you who I am, but really proud to be here, representing SAIC, and really proud from an SAIC standpoint and personally to be supporting this event. Technology may help win battles, but it's sustained ecosystems like this, right, that really help win wars. That's why organizations like FCEA and gatherings like this are so important. All of us are building a collaborative and national security ecosystem that allows us to bring the nation's best ideas to help our joint warfighters and coalition warfighters in today's data-centric battlefield. And I was just talking with General Rudd about the importance of this collaboration and us really working together and breaking down our own barriers from an industry standpoint to be able to bring the best capabilities forward. As a mission integrator, SAIC takes pride in galvanizing private sector teams, including the traditional DIB OEMs, if you will, hyperscalers, commercial tech innovators, as well as academia, right? For the needs of the Department of War and combatant commands like Indo-Pac. And, you know, examples of capabilities we bring, I'll just throw out a couple. You know, from an SAIC standpoint, it's a full spectrum of C5ISRT, undersea weapons, and M&S for across-the-board C5ISRT training, as well as even fifth-gen combat readiness training from an aviation standpoint. As you all know, what Indo-PACOM and its subordinate commands are doing, it matters to America and to the world. To secure a free and prosperous region while having our warfighters ready to fight tonight, this national security ecosystem that we're all a part of must rapidly deliver capabilities that enhance lethality, accelerates decision superiority, and strengthens readiness across all the domains. Fortunately, our closing keynote speaker is an expert in the kind of teamwork it takes to defend America and our allies. On behalf of FCA International and FCA Hawaii, thank you for attending TechNet Indo-Pacific, and I know we all look forward to Lieutenant General Rudd's closing keynote address, and I believe Brigadier General Smith will be coming up to actually give us a little background and do that introduction. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, sir. We are joined today by tomorrow's leaders in our cadre who are part of the ROTC program here in Hawaii. May I ask the Army and Navy ROTC cadets from the University of Hawaii at Manoa to please stand and be recognized. After today's closing remarks, we ask that the ROTC students quickly move to the right side of the stage for pictures with Lieutenant General Rudd. I would now like to introduce Brigadier General Michael Smith, Director for Command, Control, Communications, Computers, and Cyber, J6 Director, U.S. Indo-Pacific Command.
Hey, aloha, and good morning again, everybody. Yeah, lots of excitement. I love it. All right. I know it's getting to be lunchtime. Some of you may have eaten, some of you may have not. But just a few quick words. Lieutenant General retired Susan Lawrence and team. Can't thank FCA International and FCA Hawaii enough for this fantastic event. Thank you to Hawaii Convention Center, the volunteers for FCA that helped put this on and make this all possible. Thank you to all our industry friends, our other friends in the room, and our young students that are going to help us push this fight into tomorrow. So together we can achieve U.S. Indo-PACOM's highest duty, deterrence, prevent and respond to crisis, and when necessary, prevail. This year's FCA theme, Sword and Shield, Empowering a Secure, Free, and Prosperous Indo-Pacific, was purposeful and relevant. As we've discussed this week, the nature of war remains constant while the character of war is changing at a rapid pace. We must embrace change, innovation, adapt at speed, and very rapidly maintain and continue to maintain decision superiority. So with that said, I'd like to welcome our closing keynote speaker, a true visionary, master of warfare, agile and innovative strategic leader at the tip of the spear, U.S. Indo-PACOM, adapting at speed and creating the requisite overmatch to prevail. It's my distinct pleasure and honor to introduce Lieutenant General Joshua Rudd, Deputy Commander, United States Indo-PACOM, a career Special Forces officer with over 3 decades of service. Lieutenant General Rudd has led at every level across global operations. From the Middle East to the Indo-Pacific, he brings unparalleled experience in special operations, joint command, and national security leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Lieutenant General Rudd.
All right, we're going to try this again. Aloha!
Aloha!
That was a little bit better. Thank you. I mean, you're in Hawaii, right? Most of you don't live here in Hawaii, so you ought to be pretty excited to be here. Hey, Mike, thank you for a very humbling and kind introduction. And Susan, and there's so many people that I could name, but I won't name, that are involved in putting this together, bringing it together. But On behalf of the United States Indo-Pacific Command and Admiral Paparo and the rest of our team, we really do appreciate the effort that's gone into pulling this together and what this represents. And if you'll allow me for a few minutes here, I want to try to give a little bit of context and perspective on how we see all this capability that's represented out here and all the intellectual horsepower, creativity, and drive that is focused, perhaps disparately, but hopefully increasingly collectively, on the most consequential threat, challenge, adversary, pick your descriptor, that threatens our way of life and the freedom and the open and the prosperity across this region. And it's our job at U.S. Indo-Pacific Command to ensure that it remains that way. That is becoming increasingly challenging, and I'll talk a little bit about how we see that, how we characterize what we're up against, and then how hopefully collectively we bring our collective efforts together to enable us to go faster, increase our capability, scale the capacity that we need, integrate it with allies and partners across the region and across the globe that maintain the freedom that we all so much enjoy. So, a couple things just to walk away with in case you don't remember anything else. The changing nature of warfare. There's 3 meta-trends and 1 mega-trend, and I'll talk about those. And then, once we understand those, what do we do about that? And I'll just give you 3 words, because I like to talk in alliterations and simple terms. Hopefully, maybe some of this resonates, but instruction, innovation, and implementation. Instruction, and I'll get to it when I get on the remarks, but that was the one that wasn't an intuitive I-related word, but think about it in terms of learning, understanding. But what's the changing character of warfare? And notice I say character, not nature. A lot of people, I think, misappropriately right now in the modern era say the changing nature of warfare. Well, we got any staff college, war college graduates in the crowd? We probably do. You guys studied those dead generals. And the most famous one of all, Clausewitz, he reminds us that the nature of warfare does not change. The continuation of policy by other means, right? It's a human endeavor. That's not going to change. And it's designed to deliver political outcomes. That's the nature of warfare. The characteristics, however, are changing, and they're changing rapidly, as you can imagine, underpinned by technology, and a digital world continues to move at a pace that is unbelievable. We stand right now at a precipice of one of those moments where it's beginning to rapidly change, and I'm going to try to bring it together on how we view it, and hopefully that enables the rest of you all to understand where you can apply your creative industry and intellectual capacity. Some of you can remember, because you're as old as I am, some of you are older than I am, cutting-edge technology came in the form of a computer screen and a slide. We called that thing PowerPoint. Cutting-edge technology, right? We've moved way beyond that. Although sadly, a lot of commanders still get paper copies of slides on PowerPoint, and we still use it. But the reality is, though, the tools and methods we use have evolved dramatically, and they'll continue to do so at an ever-increasing, accelerating pace. So I want to talk about the changing character of warfare and frame what Admiral Paparo describes as 3 meta-trends and 1 mega-trend. The meta-trend 1 is information and cognitive operations. Meta-trend 2, the democratization of drones and the new defense advantage. Meta-trend 3, penetrating strike and precision effects. And then the mega-trend that you could think about wrapping up all those other 3 metas and underpinning it, connecting it, enabling it, is ubiquitous competition for networks. if you can't network it, if you can't connect it and architect it, all this incredible capability doesn't work the way it needs to. So right now, we would argue we're at the end of it. We are not at the end of an information revolution. We're actually at its dawn. If you think back to the advent of the printing press, it led to a 30 years war that then led to the way that the entire globe was reshaped and reformed. Put it in the context of thinking about that. In today's world, the international system is being rapidly changed, evolving, and defined by the information environment. And it's moving faster than it ever has. Consider how social media and artificial intelligence can now shape public opinion and political will faster than the movement of forces and their associated actions. What happens on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, that might affect whether we do or don't move troops and how fast they get there and whether or not we should. And it'll definitely influence populations and political decision makers. Information operations, influence campaigns, cognitive warfare are all becoming central to how nations compete and fight wars. A military historian recently told me, the side that shapes the narrative often determines when and where the first shots are fired or whether they're even fired at all. Our adversaries understand this very well. You all know it. I don't have to get into details about that, but you know they are investing heavily in capabilities that target not just military systems, but the cognitive domain of decision makers and populations. The second meta trend, the democratization of drones. Everybody thinks modern warfare is going to be nothing but drone warfare. Not necessarily true, but it doesn't dismiss or discount the critical role that that ever-increasing capability is playing. It's reshaping warfare at a breakneck speed. We look at the Middle East, we look at Europe and those conflicts, it's completely flush with unmanned systems. We see this in the commercial sector. Gone are the days of where only great powers possessed unmanned capability. Everybody in this room could go out and afford to buy a relatively cheap, inexpensive, capable unmanned system. You could use it for a variety of reasons, some of them good, and if you didn't want it, and some of them not so good. But think about it. Today, a startup company right here in Honolulu could produce unmanned capability at cost, at speed, and at scale like never before. And this trend fundamentally changes the traditional calculus of assault warfare. So again, if I asked the infantry officers or planners in the room, for an invading force, what's the correlation that you would have to factor in? A 3-to-1 calculus, right? That has completely been upended by the advent and the commoditization of unmanned systems. We've seen this in Ukraine. Consumer drones coupled with innovative tactics have created defensive capabilities that could have been unimaginable a decade ago. The effect is causing a potential invading force to have to reconsider how they do that. It certainly is an advantage to the defender, and it reduced greatly the cost of human life and the calculus and cost of time at which you plan these operations. And it's not a one-sided development. It can be applied either offensively or defensively. An invading force, an offensive force, is now looking at ways to harness unmanned systems as part of their effects that prep the environment for the manned portion of warfare that comes in to seize terrain and hold terrain. The question is not whether drones will transform warfare, but who will master the integration into joint operations first and do it the fastest. Our answer is not found on the battlefield right now. It's found in industry, on the factory floor. There's industry plants in Colorado, Ohio, Indiana that are already pushing attritable airframes out the door at unit cost below the best below the best export quote of traditional suppliers of that. And you know where they are, you know who they are, and that's where the competition is. More importantly, every airframe that leaves that production line comes with an open software architecture. The ability to produce and deliver upgrades, but also to connect and integrate other industry partners' capabilities. General Clark, during his remarks the other day, highlighted the Forge at Schofield, the partnership with Honolulu Community College, and enhancing our advanced manufacturing capability. That's just one example of how we are recognizing what needs to be done in the changing characteristic of warfare and do it faster. And in doing so, we enable the warfighter, but we also reinforce the uniqueness of what's here in Hawaii. So that's a shout out to industry, but specifically to our partners and the community here in Hawaii. Quantity has a quality. We hear that, right? My God, they're producing at breakneck speeds. That's got a quality, but increasingly, the upgradability of those low-cost, attritable systems in real time, I think is the quality that helps decide the future and the next fight. The third meta trend involves commoditization of space access, advanced propulsion, seeker technologies, and computing power. These developments, supercharged by artificial intelligence, are making fires and targeting processes faster, more lethal, more survivable than ever before. Survivable penetrating strike warfare is becoming increasingly salient tool for influencing political decision makers. Think about what happened recently in the Middle East. Probably the most extreme and profound example that we've seen in our modern era. Think about that in terms of what it means to the Indo-Pacific region and what we have to develop and deliver across the region. When precision munitions can travel thousands of miles and strike critical targets with minimal collateral damage, the calculus of deterrence changes exponentially. Both Pacific Fleet Commander Admiral Kaler, SOCPAC Commander General Van Antwerp highlighted the side that can see and sense and understand and strike precisely first will hold the advantage. That's deterrence. This is particularly relevant within our theater, as I mentioned, just given the vast distances and the fact that our friendly forces currently and will have to operate within a weapons engagement zone of an adversary that is increasingly expanding. The proliferation of these technologies means the advantage isn't guaranteed to either side. Again, produce faster, produce more sophistication, be able to connect it in time and space, sometimes with unmanned capability, and definitely with information operations. But the mega trend that underpins all of this, and perhaps most germane to this crowd, given the nature and the focus of this effort, is the ubiquitous competition for networks. If you can't network all these systems capabilities together on an architecture that enables us to connect and apply and move data, move information, move updated software at the speed of war, none of that works. We would argue space, cyber, sensors, AI compute, and 5G, this is all enabling the data, the compute power, the transport and security to bring things that have never happened at the speed and the scale of a war in a conflict that we potentially face if this were to happen. That's the megatrend. The competition isn't just about hardware or software. It's about creating an integrated system that delivers decision superiority as well as command and control. The side that masters cognitive operations, counter-assault capabilities, survivable precision strike will shape the future security environment. But again, none of that will happen without the megatrend and the ability to connect it all on a resilient, survivable, and a network that pushes data to the lowest level, to the edge, to enable the ability to deliver effects. One of the CEOs that was on the floor that I just talked to a minute ago said, in business, we talk about network effects, how each additional user makes the network more effective. In modern warfare, the effects are literal. Each additional sensor, shooter, and decision node exponentially increases the capability. So again, think about the characteristics of these capabilities brought together and underpinned by the megatrend of a network. Our adversaries recognize this reality. They have been pushing what they call informatized warfare for decades. Their military doctrine emphasizes systems confrontation, system destruction warfare, targeting not only individual platforms or individuals, but the networks that make them effective, along with critical infrastructure that would be necessary to project power, and if attacked at the home base, would create chaos and massive, massive distraction. So what are we doing about this? Now here's what I ask you to remember: 3 things: instruction, innovation, implementation. Those are the elements that allow us to buy down and manage the risk associated with either having these capabilities or not at the time, in the speed, and in the places where they matter most. First, instruction. Again, think about that just as learning. Our ability to rapidly understand emerging technologies and their implications for strategy and for our operations. This will determine whether we lead or follow. This means breaking down barriers between military, academia, industry, and allies. That's what this represents. And hopefully, again, this isn't a competition of goods, it's a collaboration of ideas and efforts that make the whole of the sum of the parts that bring together make the whole stronger. Creating a culture where lessons are shared freely and not hoarded in silos or in proprietary silos. Second, innovation. We must move beyond incremental improvements to embrace transformative approaches. This doesn't always mean building the most advanced technology, although we need that. Sometimes it means finding the cleverest and most creative ways to apply existing and future technologies. One of my close Special Forces colleagues always reminds me, technology's great, but it's the most dangerous weapon and the most lethal weapon is still the creative human mind. So again, the ability to bring it all together, think differently, not try to go man for man, capability for capability, but leap ahead and think about what's the next technology that we need. And finally, implementation. This is where great powers often stumble. Having brilliant ideas or advanced technologies mean little without the ability to field them on a scale and speed and integrate them effectively. This requires procurement reform. This is where I look internally within the department. We need to do better on that. Training evolution, doctrinal adaptation, and perhaps hardest challenge of all, the production at speed, scale, low cost. This has got to improve if we're able to get ahead of our adversaries. All right, so where does this leave us? What capabilities must we develop to maintain security and stability in the Indo-Pacific? I've described within the confines of the changing characteristics of warfare what I think those are. But again, just to summarize, we need a combination of scalable, resilient, and secure networks to enable the best decision making, to employ our forces with maximum utility, and buy down the risk, not only to our forces, to our mission, but to our strategy. We need, and now have, algorithmic AI and machine learning tools that compress the sensor-to-shooter chain below our adversary's own doctrinal threshold. I'll give you an example, recent example out in theater. Last month during Valiant Shield exercise, a commercial edge rack running open source models built in Austin, Texas, but trained in the Philippines on a range there. It generated maritime fire control solutions in 2 minutes faster than an adversary's comparable land-based, super complex system can do. And we think that only gets faster. We think that continues to accelerate even within the next couple months. That same rack is already being replicated on a landing platform deck, LPD for you maritime folks in the room, as well as in Australian modular data centers. But think about that. It's joint, it's all domain, it's combined, it's at the edge, and it's evolving at the speed of innovation based on one single exercise. Our competitors design their kill webs to outrun our decision cycle. The cycle just reversed. Based on that description, what I just talked about, it's reversing. Industry, not government bureaucracy, supplied that gear. And again, backed by instruction, innovation, implementation. So we must recognize the asymmetric nature of these trends. Influence operations favor the offense, drones favor the defense, precision strike capabilities favor the offense, and our strategies must account for these realities. So ladies and gentlemen, I began by noting the changing character of warfare. The nature remains constant, but the character is changing rapidly. The Indo-Pacific will be the primary theater where these changes play out with enormous consequences for global security. The competition isn't just about who has the most ships or aircraft, although we need those too. It's about who best harnesses these metatrends and the megatrend to build out the most effective warfighting capabilities and put them in the hands of the warfighter to continuously improve them and put them in the right places in the right quantities to deliver deterrence, and if necessary, be able to fight and win. So as I look out in the room, I see the collective expertise. We have decades of expertise in the room. There's commitment, there's shared vision, and increasingly, there's collaboration over competition. So we work together to beat the competition. The competition's the adversary. Critical part of this, industry, academia, the military, our allies and partners, and the local community that hosts us every day here in Hawaii. We're incredibly grateful for everything that you do for us. And on behalf of the United States Indo-Pacific Command, thanks for the opportunity to close out this incredible event. And thanks for your participation and presence.
Please welcome to the stage Lieutenant General Susan Lawrence, U.S. Army retired, President and Chief Executive Officer, AFCEA International.
Well, General, exciting as an old SIGO working those networks, the fact of the warfighters are briefing it now and understanding the importance. We got your message there, institution, innovation, and implementation on a mega trend of the network. So thank you so much. On behalf of AFCEA, we're going to make a donation in your name to the Friends of the Windward Wounded Warriors. We thank you very much. And we have here, this is our 40th TechNet. And so here's our challenge coin for you.
All right.
Thank you, sir. Well, it's time to say aloha. What a great event, and we want to thank you for all that you have done this week. Industry, you're our heroes. You exceeded our sponsorships, you exceeded our exhibits, and believe it or not, with a government shutdown, we are only 400 less than we were last year. So thank you. I want to call out my partners at FCA Hawaii. You guys do all the hard work before we show up here. Chapter President Dick Palmieri, thank you. Regional Vice President Linda Newton, Chapter Vice President Don Cloud, Technical Director Cynthia Pacheco, and our chapter counselor and volunteer Yogi Fong. And I have to mention Alan, who's been all over here. Thank you so much. Let's do this. Again, I'm excited about what we have coming up in the future. I hope you all have marked TechNet Transatlantic is the 3rd and 5th of December in Frankfurt. What we're doing is modeling this event and taking it to Transatlantic. So this will be our 3rd year. We've got some great speakers lined up there, so I hope that you all can join us there. As we always talk about all the hard work, I'm very proud of each of our 140 chapters and their initiatives to, last year we gave over $2 million in STEM scholarships and teachers grants. You give back to your community, and we really appreciate that. And I made a call to some key chapters and said, we've got some international programs we need to recognize as well. So a huge thank you to Rocky Mountain, Alamo, and Hawaii for standing up and answering the call. Thank you so much. Okay, mark your calendars. October 27th to the 29th, 2026. We'll see you back here. Unfortunately, the convention center will be under renovations, so we'll go back to Hawaiian Village. Make sure you see our team today and mark your preferred locations for next year to do that. So with that, again, be safe going home, and aloha. I'll see you next year.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes TechNet Indo-Pacific 2025. Thank you for attending. We will see you next year.
For the UH cadets, ROTC cadets, would you please go to the right?